begins at waking, and then we, if things go right, the way God designed, we quickly drop down into levels 3 and 4 of sleep up until about midnight. And then from there, we move into stages 1 and 2 throughout the rest of the night, with some brief periods of wakefulness, perhaps to go to the bathroom or whatever. And the little red lines are dreaming. And each one of these stages has a very specific function for our brains. And if our brains cannot accomplish that, we're going to miss out on something. Okay? And so we also learned the effects of what happens to our brain and our sleep patterns if the adenosine cannot attach itself to the receptor on the cell. This is going to be our pretend edge of the cell here. And then this is going to be our pretend engine of the cell. And depending on which chemicals get attached and plugged in will determine whether the muscle is tightened for work or if it's relaxed. Whether we are going to be in a situation where we're very alert but tense, or if we're going to be alert and relaxed, or if our immune system is going to be put on hold because we need to run from a tiger, or if our immune system is going to be functioning. So you can see why that's important to know which one is going to go on. Adenosine for one type of activities and epinephrine for another. Now, if we introduce caffeine, we learned that caffeine is a very bossy boy. And it can actually, we won't single the men out. It can actually kick the adenosine off and put itself in the place of the adenosine, which introduces the beginning of the sleep mode. And so when we put the caffeine here, adenosine cannot get on, and therefore the epinephrine keeps running. And so the tighter muscles, the alertness, but with tense alertness, that sort of thing continues. Because it gets turned off from adenosine, but it doesn't get turned off with caffeine, but caffeine blocks the spot. Okay? So, why is that important? Well, because we need this level of 3 and 4 sleep for, does anybody remember? We need levels 3 and 4 for cleansing the brain of toxins so that it can repair itself, and that's our insurance against Alzheimer's. We need levels 3 and 4 sleep. This is where our immune system gets its boost. If we don't get into levels 3 and 4, our immune system greatly suffers. And we'll just leave it at that for now so we don't get too confusing. So what happens when the caffeine's on here instead and the body is tired but alert? What would happen in that case? Let me get out my tools here. I shouldn't have used a Ziploc and zip it. Okay. So we're going to tape our caffeine guy up here at the top. I tried to be a little more organized today, but I'm not sure I spelled it right. Anyway, you know what I mean. So, when the body's really tired and it's alert, what do you think it's thinking? Oh, I need some rest. I need some rest. Let's make some more adenosine receptors. So it's going to make some more adenosine receptors. Oops, I wanted green, but that's okay. We'll make it green. But we have these adenosine receptors being created so so that the body can get the adenosine that it needs because caffeine has displaced it. But in the thinking mind, when we have been using caffeine to help us be alert, and we're tired, what do? We drink another cup of coffee, or a Dr. Pepper, or have some chocolate. Okay, or we eat. Okay, well then what's going to happen? It's going to get filled up not with adenosine, but with something else. Now, caffeine can be a problem. The chocolate, no, that one's dry. Sorry. Chocolate can be a problem. It has they are actually chocolate. I probably misspelled that one too. Oh well, you know what I mean. You can tell I haven't had enough of this yet this week. Okay, chocolate. Guess what? Insulin. Okay, what's insulin for? It's for the sugar absorption. It happens when we eat, and it takes precedence over. So what happens when we eat late at night? We're going to have insulin on these receptors instead of adenosine. So when we eat late at night and our stomach still has food in it, that's going to be blocked even if we haven't had any caffeine or anything naughty. It's going to be blocked with insulin so that the adenosine can't get in, and we're not going to get down into the stages 3 and 4 sleep. Yes?
How many hours before sleep should we be finished eating?
Probably 4.
Okay.
What do you think, Dr. Ben, about 4 hours?
I think that's pretty close.
Okay, about 4 hours. So we really need to time our meals. And so insulin, chocolate, some medications, recreational drugs. All of these are going to block the adenosine, okay? That includes whatever's in tobacco. You can tell I'm really struggling, it's okay. Nicotine, yeah, tobacco. Okay, all of those things are going to take precedence over the adenosine. Now, that unfortunately is very important for us to know because our immune system does a lot of things. One of the things it does is it recognizes cells that are mutant, rebellious, and multiplying. We call that cancer. Okay? And so when the immune system is functioning properly, it sends forth messenger chemicals that put holes in the cancer cells and they die. Isn't that wonderful?
Yes. Amen.
But because of the rise in cancer, do you suppose a lot of us are having, in America, a lot of trouble with our sleep? That may be more of a problem than some other factors. And when you look at our society, we're working around the clock. Someone's working those graveyard and night shifts. The eateries are open 24 hours a day. Oh my goodness, what are we doing to ourselves? It's not good, is it? Okay. So we were going to really decide that we don't want to do these things anymore, right? We're going to do that. Okay, so what's going to happen when we stop doing these things, but we don't do this anymore, and yet we still have all these adenosine receptors, but we're not introducing these things in our system anymore? We're going to absorb adenosine. And what does adenosine do? Makes us sleepy and tired because we have all these extra receptors on our cells. So, for withdrawals, these are going to contribute to the withdrawal symptoms of these other substances. I'm going to write them down. You're going to have brain fog. You're going to have fatigue, especially in the evenings. You're going to have exhaustion, even when you wake up in the morning. That doesn't sound like a fun ride. How long do you suppose it takes the body to realize, if you don't cheat, and you don't introduce these things anymore, you're not eating late at night, you're not eating the chocolate, you've discovered what it is that's interrupting your sleep, how long do you suppose it takes for the body to say, we don't need these extra receptors anymore? We're going to delete some of them. 2 months. Most people are going to say, it's not worth it. But the problem is, when we are operating with these things on board, we are here. And this is the 2 sleep areas that really strengthen our frontal lobe. And where is it that God communicates with us? In our frontal lobe. So if we want a closer walk with Jesus, we need to take this seriously and ask the Lord to send help. Get an accountability partner. Tell them what it is you're struggling with. And call each other, pray for each other, and get some help to get over this, because God's end-day people need their full frontal lobe intact in order to make it through. And, you know, we've had a lot of wonderful information given us by Dr. Ben on intermittent fasting. This is one of the reasons why that's so important, because if we are not able to reach levels 3 and 4 because we still have food in our stomach because we ate late, it's just, though it may not have some of the other bad effects, it does still have many of the bad effects as if we drank coffee or something else. And we really need to understand what we're doing to our bodies. So once we begin to experience the withdrawals, we're also going to begin day by day, step at a time, experience some good things. Okay? So we're going to write those down. There's going to be less fog, less fatigue, less exhaustion, and an alertness that is accompanied by peace and calm. And then I also forgot to mention another one of our chemicals that has a very good purpose, but it isn't necessarily always our friend, and that's cortisol. And so epinephrine is what our body uses for the fight or flight response for the immediate problem. And it's easier to process, quicker to process. When the adenosine comes on, it gets turned off so that we can go into those deep levels of sleep and rest and rebuild. But cortisol has many of the same properties of epinephrine, except that it's very long-lived. And so when epinephrine is for daily little aggravations. Cortisol is when you are stuck in a situation that is long-term stress and your body kicks into, I gotta live with this and I gotta get through, and so this is what I'm gonna do. So cortisol can also fill the epinephrine spot, okay? Cortisol is going to take longer for it to process through the system to get rid of it in order to be able to accomplish proper sleep. And I remember when I was first discovered by Dr. Mark Holthouse in El Dorado Hills to have cortisol so high that it could not even be charted. And I began the program that he gave me to get that lower, because I was in danger of having a heart attack or something. I mean, it was, remember, this is muscle tightness. You can get muscle spasms in your arteries that will block off the blood flow, and you can have a heart attack from that. And so, as I did that, all of his recommendations, as it turned out, after a couple months, I kept feeling like, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am. I feel funny. Well, that was before, when I had something big that had to happen. Let's say it was a 4-H meeting and I had 20 people coming and my house was a mess. Oh yeah, I'd stay up all night, clean it, fix it, and it'd all be good the next day. And I would still have enough energy to do the class. Was that good for me? No, that was not good for me. Okay, I couldn't do that anymore. I felt cheated. That I couldn't force myself to produce. But you know what? It was a blessing. Because as I worked through that and continued through these exhaustions and fatigues and the brain fog, and this is doing things which you're going to find are interesting, like for myself, I can get in this position without able to turn it off by eating wheat. My body creates cortisol out of it, okay? And so as I really work through that, exercise is extremely important to lower the cortisol and the epinephrine. So are you going to be exercising real well when you've got brain fog, fatigue, and exhaustion? Probably not. That's what your partner's for. That's what your accountability partner is for, okay? And so as we go through these things, and we want to be closer to the Lord, have better working minds, and be of better service to Himself and our loving church family, we might have to be patient for a while to get past all of this. And it's going to be worth it. So, if you are addicted to anything, it is going to have a tendency to create this cortisol epinephrine cycle, even if you're not on these things, because your body will create that as it gets the feeling that it's not going to get what it's addicted to, such as, unfortunately for some, it's their device. They actually have clinics now where you can go for device addiction, because when you stop having your fix, what happens when you quit your caffeine or other things? What's one of the first things that happens? Headache. All right. And other things. Mood swings. Yes. Those two alone, accompanied with these, I think is enough for a lot of people to say, I'll see you later, Mom, when you're done with your withdrawals. You know, because we're not pleasant to live with. So we're going to need to be patient with one another. And so what Dr. Milton Teskey, who's the person who we got most of this information from, what he advises, that if you are really in the high levels of epinephrine and cortisol, you would do well first to wean off. Because if you try to do it cold turkey and you're on more than 1 cup of coffee or the equivalent of some other substance to 1 cup of coffee a day, you are going to get a migraine, most likely. You are going to have a lot of withdrawal type symptoms that are going to make it very difficult to live with you. And for the sake of yourself and others around you, you may do better to wean yourself down. What does that look like? Okay, let's say you're using coffee, 3 cups a day. Okay, for the first week, you're going to do 2 cups a day. The second week, you're going to do 1 cup a day. For the third, we're going to work down. Then after you're at 1 cup a day, you're going to go to tea, because tea has less. It has some, but it has less caffeine. What are you going to do then? You start with the smaller amount, and then you start diluting it with herbal tea, okay? But at some point, you're going to have to go ahead and do the cold turkey. I'm done. I'm not touching it anymore. What does that look like? That means you have an accountability partner. You go through every nook and cranny in your home and you take out everything. If you're a smoker, you take out the lighters, the cigarettes. You go through the car. No lighters and cigarettes in the car. On and on. Make no provision for the flesh to fulfill its lust. It can't be there. Don't go to certain stores if it's a problem for you. Don't go down certain aisles if it's a problem for you. If it's really a problem, have a friend do your shopping for you for a little while until you get a better hold on this. If you cannot be trusted in a store to keep your hands off the stuff you're not supposed to have. And my goodness, God forbid that you should buy it, use it in the car, dispose of it, and then go home and nobody knows, right? No, that is not how we're going to get the victory. We need to be honest and open and say, I need help. Please help me be accountable. Ask me if I've done these things, so that I can get to the point where God can talk to me and I can hear him. Does he quit talking? No. But when we're raging with all of this stuff in our system, we don't hear his voice like we should. And actually, Ellen White has a statement that says, when a person who uses tea, coffee, alcohol, or those other substances regularly, when it is taken away from them, there is a period of time that they cannot hear the voice of the Lord. Because they're in withdrawal. They're in survival mode. Their brain isn't capable. And that is the time we really need to come alongside our brothers and sisters and help them through this process so they can have the victory. And so I wanted to give you that information because I feel that there are dear ones that we know that could have a much better life if they could get past this and have victory in this area so that they could get this healing sleep, this reset every night, have their thoughts organized, and that sort of thing. And I just want to thank you for putting up with all my fumbles this morning, because you can tell that when Margot has a bad week, Wifey has a bad week too.